Like, unless you're like Mondo and Dowd are just like have a very big rump that just really marshmallow stuffs down into the toilet bowl, thus breaking the beam of light. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And as we dive into today's episode, I have to admit that we just celebrated our 200th episode. Thank you for those who were able to listen to 200th episode, aptly named again, The Big Deuce. I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, we are soldiering forth. 200 episodes, we're not stopping. Can't stop, won't stop. At the point of this episode's release, it is well into spring. We've put the brackets away. We've figured out what the frig the weather wants to do, kind of. Like, it's still rainy, which, yeah, we're in the Pacific Northwest. Like, it comes with the territory. And I'm personally ready for summer. It was one of those where, you're sitting there at baseball, which is, I think generally a warm sport, and it's running late into the evening. It's like, it is dang cold out here. And April is really when that, like, I think I'm ready for it to be warm, finally sets in. There will be a day in the middle of the summer where everything's hot and sweaty and just generally chaffish. I will desire this cold air, but it's not right now. And in April, I had to go back to my master notes to figure out what in the world we were going to talk about in this episode. Like, we've exhausted a lot. We talked about space plumbers. We did the 200th episode, but it's like, well, like, what's next? And as I've noted, I have this list of episode ideas that lives on my phone notes app. And while it's probably a bad idea, like, I'm just gonna, this might be a little sneak peek, a little Privy Cast sneak peek, but you can kind of see, like, there's plenty of ideas in the hopper. And so I went to the master list for today's episode, and something that was there has lived there for some time. Like, it's actually been on there. It's actually going to take us back to a classic Privy episode while looking forward to probably creating a real cultural dichotomy, and will also lend to some new Hunter's anecdotes. This week on Privy, we're discussing the past, the present, and the future of automatic flush toilets. To review what is a years-old episode, go back and listen. You can go find it, but you can actually search episodes in Privy's website, privy-cast.com/episodes. You can search keywords for episodes and it'll pop it up. So if you go search for flush toilets, I'm sure you'll find it. And it's already been said, but for a lot of our history as bathroom users, the idea of flushing a toilet was more related to what one would not call flushing, but it would be more akin to like rinsing or like maybe flooding the Shazberries Deluxe that you've produced down some sort of vessel or into some sort of container. Remember, if you add enough water to anything, it will eventually clean the thing in question. And people were essentially, in our history, pretty much just like rinsing out latrines and buckets that they had defecated and wazzed into. And so I guess the act of like wrenching that out and slurshing it around and like dumping it out into the street, remember, they were often dumping these into the streets, into the rivers, onto their neighbors as they walked down the sidewalk. More on that in the future. This would technically be the flush, if you will. And in that episode about flush toilets, we noted that there is a distinction in the idea of what it means to flush something. There is an action that we as modern bathroom defecators associate with what it means to flush something. And primarily it is motion, just like push the lever, pull the lever, Kronk. And that is the flush motion. Like we understand what's going on. And the action of like flushing large and moving large quantities of water to rinse out and move the solids away. But then there's also the actual mechanism, the flush, which is the device used to perform the action of flushing the toilet. For a long time, those two concepts, the verb flush and the noun flush, remained separated. For a lot of the toilet's history, the flush action was a natural process, often helped along by aqueducts, rivers, reservoirs, stored water from rooftops, hills, rainwater, and the such. If you get yourself a good waterfall, there's nobody will know if a man Chaz Royales his whitey tighties, just full sends big brown sloppy mud pie in the whitey tighties. And he full sends that. But he does it in a waterfall. Does anybody smell it? Yeah, exactly. In the state of Oregon, where we are mostly free, it's a crime to catch rainwater. It's a stupid crime, but it's a crime nonetheless. It's really dumb because for a state that has so much rainwater to be collected, we're really missing out on some water harnessing opportunities. But in some cases and in some civilizations, such as the ancient Indus Valley civilization and other parts of the ancient world, whatever rudimentary plumbing existed was only used when the big bucket of water actually forced the water down the slope. The bucket of water being, in this case, the quote-unquote flush. In Rome, the water was constantly moving through the order. Remember, they would sit in the ancient Roman public bathrooms, and there would actually be moving water down below where they would like drop death charges into. In Egypt, the flush was a person who was in charge of cleaning out your bowl or bucket. Pass me your Shaz bucket, Seymour. Seymour, I require toileting. And you pass he passes you this bowl, and then you just like go out while I do my thing. Come back in 5 to collect the bucket of deposits. Thank you, sir. Many castles in medieval times relied on rainwater to rinse poop down the garderobe and into the moat below. Think of like if your rain gutter somehow was diverted to your toilet to help like deal with poop. And while all these are pretty ingenious inventions designed to help and keep life a little bit cleaner, none of them really give the person that's pooping all that much control over their own flushing. Like, in all of these, the flushing is truly left to the whims of nature, one's ability to collect and distribute water, or, random chance. In fact, all of these really categorically only give a person control over their flushing insofar as they are willing to further interface with the leavings they've produced. You're never going to have a fully hands-off experience with any of the ancient flush technologies that existed. This is, of course, in such great contrast to what good system we have today where it's truly a hands-off experience. I poop 3 to 5 times a day and I never interface with the brown. It's a delight. All of this changed when, as we discussed, Sir John Harington invented the first flushable toilet, 1596. It's a long time ago. His device was a 2-foot deep oval bowl which was waterproofed with pitch, which is essentially tar, resin, and wax, and fed by water from an upstairs cistern. This flushing pot that Sir John Harington had invented required 7.5 gallons of water. I don't know if you know how much 7.5 gallons of water is, but those giant water jugs that they put on the top of the cooler in offices and stuff where people like go to gossip and not really drink water, and then people are like, hey, can you get the flip out of the way so I can fill up my water bottle? Those are 5-gallon jugs. Now, imagine 1.5 of those jugs, and all that water is used just to rush down and clean out this porcelain bowl that Sir John Harington had come up with. I don't care what you say, there had to have been some splashing. You do not unleash 7.5 gallons of anything and not have splashback. Like, brother, I got splashback when I'm just doing my daily pee job. He also said that to save on water, up to 20 people could use Sir John Harington's early flush toilet in between flushes. There's a proposal for all of the podcast's environmentalist friends out there. Shared flushing. If it's yellow, let it mellow. And if it's brown, store that poo until you hit your quota. Environmentalists, you guys are the ones that are like, well, we've got to conserve. Okay, here's an idea. You and 19 of your friends are going to poop before you flush. You're going to make sure that you have a nice, thick, steaming, multi-day pile of leavings before you flush. Again, with 7.5 gallons of water. You're telling me that it was a clean flush? Yeah, right. He notes in the notes of his invention, always remember that at noon and at night, empty it and leave it 1/2 foot deep in fair or clean water. And this being well done and overly kept, your worst privy may be as sweet as your best chamber. Noted, Sir John Harington. Noted. In other words, poop as many times as you want, up to 20, but you flush at noon and at night, and you make sure that you pour water in that bowl so it has standing water, 6 inches, and it will provide a sweet privy. Nice. His invention was not widely spread. Mostly used by royalty and the like, it wasn't until further in the Industrial Revolution and the inventors of the late 16th and into the 1700s started to take a crack at this flush toilet. Alexander Cummings, as we noted, was granted the first patent for what we would be more likely to call a flush toilet. Like, I think a person would be hard-pressed to look at the thing that Sir John Harington built and go, oh yeah, that's a flush toilet. But when Alexander Cummings made his flush toilet and his first patents, it's a lot more like what we are used to. It was widely successful in most markets up until the 1800s. In the 1800s was when Thomas Crapper entered the conversation. Crapper was, for a long time, credited with inventing the flush toilets. As we've discussed, And as time has shown, Crapper didn't crap out that idea. It's a myth. The toilet was not named after Thomas Crapper. Harrington and Cummings preceded old Crap in these matters. Thomas Crapper did, however, improve on the ball cock, and the tank filling mechanisms and other branding became synonymous as World War I soldiers out at war started to call these newfangled toilet devices that they found there crappers, because Thomas Crapper branded his devices and put his name all over them. Remember, where you put your name just might be your legacy. To us, a flush is the little lever thingy that you push to let water go. But back then, it was more of a chain pull system, which would pull the ball cock up and release the water into the bowl and flush the poopies away. And here's the deal. And truth be told, if you uncap this G, if you pull the lid off of Old Faithful back there, you're going to find that your flush mechanism actually accomplishes the exact same thing. You push down, it pulls the chain up, it releases water through the ball cock and into the bowl, flushing your stanky deposits away. Later, an invention helped move things down the chute with the invention of William Sloane's flushometer, which sought to pressurize the water to help get things moving. After that, an Australian company called Caroma made the 2-volume flush. Sometimes you'll go into the bathroom and you'll see this weird flusher, and to me it always looks like a circle, and it's got 2 buttons on it. One's bigger, one's smaller. One for pee, the low volume, and one for poop, or as they call it in the streets, the high volume job. And I'm going to tell the truth about something. I'm going to bear some truth here real quick. If I'm being honest, and I do my best to always be honest, I always just hit the big flush. I think the low volume flush is a scam. Give me plenty of water. And yes, as we talked when we talked to Troy Hale of Farta Documentary, it is just stupid kind of that we're using clean, totally viable drinking water to flush poo away. I would love a system wherein it uses some sort of wastewater to do the rinsing of the wastewater away. But I would be lying if I said I don't just go for the big flush every time. They call me Big Flush. It's true. The device was called the Duoset Cistern, and it reports, and this is no joke for all the brain rot kids out there, that the Duoset Cistern saves 67% on their monthly water use. You can't make it up, kids. 6-7%. But none of this was seeking to answer the question, how do we get this thing to flush if we aren't actually going to do something to make it flush? In the later 1800s, when Thomas Crapper's mini crappers had been set out into the wilds, some of them were installed in a system and an environment called a tipper closet. Tipper closets were called such because they implemented a tipping mechanism for flushing. This device, or perhaps the layout of it, was designed by a man named James Duckett in 1887. And his tipper system, his tipper mechanism, was designed to address 2 big problems which existed at the time. First, why do these toilets require so much water? And what do we do when someone forgets to flush? Do we let it stew? Pile up? Like, at what point are we going to deal with this stuff if someone forgets to either manually or via the chain pull, or in our case, via the push down flusher, flush the trouble away? James Duckett said, well, The way we're going to sort this out is my tipper mechanism. Tipper closets could be installed in various configurations, usually with a tipper tank, which worked similar to those like large water buckets at water parks that sometimes, you get the big, like almost cartoonishly sized water bucket that's like up in the air. And these like little frail, skinny children are like huddled underneath it, like looking up, and God forbid they look straight up and the water just woof, and it like snaps their spine as it like collapses them under like 30 gallons of water. That's essentially what his tipper closets did. The water would fill up and there would be standing stank that you had to deal with. And as the water filled the tank, it would often come from sinks and other sources. It would regularly clog the system with the grease and other problems that would be introduced to these tipper closets. But it's kind of a genius system. When you sit down and you do your thing, it begins to build up a water reservoir. And then when you stand up, it tips the water down, flushes the poo away. It's an automatic flush. These tipper closets remained a going method, but it didn't really catch on. Turns out the funhouse water bucket dump wasn't so fun when there was poo involved. And the best flusher that won out in their day was the chain mechanism with a variety of things to trigger the flushing. And when we sit down here on Privy, as we are in this episode, to talk about automatic flush toilets, we're really talking about the variety of things which can sense or trip or cue the toilet that it is time for flushing, and that will perform that flushing maneuver on its own without us needing to interface directly with it. The supply drop has arrived. It's tea, because my voice is dead. Thank you. God bless. Just gonna get up in here. Oh yeah, that's hot. One of the earliest ventures into automatic flushing was by a man named Boxer Lewis, who filed for a patent on a device that he called the electronic eye. The system was essentially a beam of light, often imperceptible to the human eye, that when you stick your hand or your butt crack, full bear beef anonymous, in front of the wash basin, the toilet, it triggers the water to come out of the reservoir. This actually worked really well for hands. Like when you go to wash your hands, this is very similar to the mechanisms that you have in your automatic hand washing. But as you know, when you are pooping, there isn't a lot to stay hanging down in the toilet that would trigger the flush mechanism. Like, unless you're like Mondo endowed or just like have a very big rump that just really marshmallow stuffs down into the toilet bowl, thus breaking the beam of light, you're not going to be able to get this thing going long enough for it to like do what it needs to do to flush the toilet. Sloan, the company, and the same people who invented the flushometer were also credited with this flush sensor that essentially does the same thing as Boxer's electronic eye, but this one waits to trigger until the infrared sensor is blocked and then unblocked once more. So instead of triggering only when it's blocked, it waits until it is blocked and then is unblocked and then triggers the flush mechanism. When you sit down, your fat butt interrupts the distance sensor, blocking it, if you will. And when you get up from pooping, it unblocks and thus triggers the flush. While these things were in the works in the West, Japan may have made the first actual electronic automatic flush in 1986 in order to rid the interactions a person would have to have with the germs involved with flushing. And honestly, these electronic eyes and automatic sensors are really mostly the landscape for automatic flushing right now. And so, what better time for us to venture into another Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat? This Hunter's Anecdote is called Auto Flush Big Splash. This story comes from when I was just a wee sprout of a bathroom enthusiast. And in it, I'm actually going to explain to you why I don't like automatic flush toilets. I think they're stupid. When I was in grade school, I was on a field trip with my class. I don't remember to where. I think it was the Gates of the Mountains in Montana, but I'm not sure. And I used this bathroom and I sat down and I started to do, flump, flump. And I leaned to grab some paper because they never locate, whenever you're in like a commercial bathroom, they never locate paper in a way that makes sense. It's always like too far away, in my opinion. And so I reached to get the paper, and when I did, the toilet flushed. Now, whenever I bend over to reach for toilet paper and I'm in an automatic flush toilet situation, it triggers me and it scares me when it flushes and I'm not ready for the flush. That's too much of an aggressive mermaid kiss for my exposed backside. It was loud. It gave me this undesired mermaid kiss. It's no good, but I didn't like that sensation. I don't know many people who like a wet butt in the middle of taking a dump. I don't like mixing those sensations. The whole bidet experience at the end of your job is totally different. You're done, you're emotionally ready to be wrapped up, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I think I will get a little wet right now. It's fine. It's all good. And of course, this job on the field trip was a particularly sticky one. Who knows what makes your poo sticky? I had a sticky job today, actually. It's kind of weird. I've been eating a lot of vegetables, and so my job's less sticky, but I had woofy potato soup, and I think I stuck up the job. But every time I reach over to get more paper to continue to wipe, the thing power washes my cheeks and leaves me with nothing to dry off the hams. It's a bummer. But on wipe 5 or 6, I've mostly moved on and have dealt with the emotions of the frustration of the whole thing. And so I reach over, grab paper, get hosed, go to wipe. And when I do, my arm hits my shirt on my back. And I realize the way that the water is rushing out and splashing, when I leaned forward to wipe, it was actually spraying up and getting on the back and the bottom of my t-shirt. An incredible bummer. A lot of thoughts went through my brain. 1, is this poo water? 2, why me? 3, people are for sure going to think that I have peed on my shirt when I go back out to my class. And 4, can I just finagle my sweatshirt in it in order to cover it up? Stupid, but it was my fate. And I'm so in my head calculating this that I stand up, pull up the drawers, which again, it flushed. And as I did so, the splash got on the back of my pants. The automatic flush on this toilet was way too vigorous, and I could feel the wet that I neglected to pat down on my butt soaking in through. So my butt's wet from the spray from all of these flushes. And now it's soaking through my underwear into my pants, and also my pants got sprayed from the outside. And I'm convinced that whoever set this flusher up did it to screw with people. They're going to get totally super soakered on the backside, and it's going to be hilarious. But when I emerged from the bathroom, an awkward middle schooler that day, I was wet from my mid-lower back down past my butt. And I'm sure it looks sketchy, but I'm also confident that I was more self-conscious about it than I think people were even aware of its existence. Pretty sure I just threw a sweatshirt on over that and just like sat and wet for a bit. And so I don't like automatic flush toilets. I think they are stupid. I think it's easy for people to just turn around and push that and go about their time. But this has been another Hunter's Anecdotes to keep you afloat. We've discussed the history of automatic flush toilets, and we've looked at our present as we interface with the current devices, and I share a tale of woe. But like, where are automatic flush toilets going in the future? The future of automatic flush toilets is in many ways dire, and in other ways stupid, and on the whole, I'm going to admit, totally unnecessary. The modern revolution of automatic flush toilets find their rest in the smart toilet movement. Smart toilets have actually been around a long time, but don't find their home in automatic flushing. Rather, they are more in relation to bidets. We covered bidets a lot. Go check out those episodes. But in short, there was a U.S. patent in 1964 by Arnold Cohen for an electronic bidet that was later picked up and popularized by Japanese company Toto in the 1980s. Toto's electronic toilets offered some new features, included heating seats and warm water cleansing. Real just peach to your bum. The future of these automatic flushers is tied to these smart toilets, which innovate in many ways over the years, to include air drying your beehole after the spray down. The 2000s and 2010s smart features started to emerge. Everything got smart in the 2010s. Smart cars, smart water, smart TVs, smartphone. But you know what didn't get smarter? The people. Apparently, the smart marketing made it into the bathroom because smart toilets began to emerge. While some of these smart features began much like automated flushing with sensors to monitor your presence, lights in the bowl to P to C, C to P, auto raising and lowering seats, these smart toilets are, in my opinion, becoming really nowadays the things of science fiction. There is smart toilet integration. That is specifically smart toilets that hook to your home, Wi-Fi, and smart home technology. The greater smart environment in order to make everything connected. You know what I want? I definitely want my coffee pot and my blender connected to my TV, which is somehow also connected to my toilet. That seems like a great idea. It's like, hey, like Fatty Momo drank way too many super protein smoothies and he's drank this much coffee. And so now we are going to broadcast on the smart TV the disaster that's happening in the smart toilet. Not really. Toilets that can sense your smart lighting. Sense when you turn on the light. Begin heating your seat and raise the lid if necessary, depending on the user. There's an automated future for toilets where there are health features built in to this smart toilet technology. Features that could analyze urine, analyze poo, and help determine health markers and concerns that you could take to your doctor. Check for things like glucose levels, cholesterol, and other gut indicators for disease. This data would then be sent to the user's phone. Much like the sleep app, it's called the Sheet app. And it tracks my sheet and my skeet. Or it could even be shared directly to your doctor. You could have your toilet automated, user-created profiles specific to various and multiple people that might be in your home. But here's the thing. Automation and smart devices, if you will, make for dumb humans. In the absence of smart technologies, we are reminded that we still have to take responsibility for the mess we've made. We can't rely on some toilet to smart delete our poo. It's never going to really deal with all of our problems. It should be noted, there is up and coming AI toilets integrated with neural databases to help evaluate my poop. Science. It's checking up on my skeet. I don't think I want Grok having access to my crap data. I mean, Google already does because I'm an avid user of the Poop Map app. Go download it and join the pooping competition. There's a PrivyCast group on the Poop Map app. Go check it out. But I don't want AI to have access to that. That's power no AI needs as it assesses my assets and sends user data to marketing companies who are in turn selling me food and drink that is known dang well I already like, or even scarier, sells the health data and use it against us as saying, hey, I think you would do better if you had more of this, and then they market those things to you. I don't like AI. It has its purpose. I use it for very, very limited editing. But I don't really want anything with intelligence. Arthur Weasley in Harry Potter said it best. Never trust something if it can think for itself and you can't tell where it keeps its brain. I don't want AI getting personal with my leavings. And if that's the sacrifice I have to make to skip out on automatic flush toilets of the future, I'm willing to do so. After all, it's easier to just reach back and flush. Thank you all so much for being here and joining us for another episode of Privy. Go check out the PrivyCast store, privy-cast.com/store. We have PrivyCast merch. Get a hat, get a shirt, get a mug. I should have made tea in my PrivyCast mug. Next time, I promise I'll show it off to you. It's a good mug. I'm an avid coffee drinker, and it's a good mug. You can also check out past episodes, see what's going on over there. Leave the show a rating and review. The 5-star options are preferred. You can hit that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. It helps people find the show, and for every rating and review you leave, we'll donate $1 to Wounded Warriors and Living Water International as a reminder to keep pooping in the free world. This free world was not always free. And in pursuit of cleaner water for all. Not everybody has it, but everybody should. I'd like to thank Kevin and Poddington for use of their music, and thank you to all others whose music you can find their information in the ding dong below. Follow us on social media. We're at PrivyCast on all social media. You can follow me. I'm at Owlet7. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Keep pooping in the free world. Own your stank. Watch out for AI-powered smart toilets. And now, as always, don't forget to flush. And you better believe I'm hitting a manual flush. No automatic flush on this job, baby. Let's go.